In the book, you say that a number of your marriages failed, and you put the blame on yourself. You say 85% of it was your fault.
I take the blame for it.
It's been 5 years since the world lost country music legend Kenny Rogers. Now, after years of silence, his wife Wanda Miller is finally speaking out and confirming the rumors that have been circulating. What has Wanda revealed that's leaving fans emotional and surprised? Join us as we take a closer look at Wanda's life after Kenny and the truth behind the headlines. Teen marriage gone wrong. Before Kenny Rogers became a music legend, he was just a teenager falling in love for the first time. His story with Janice Gordon began during his high school years, a time when everything felt exciting and new. Janice was sweet, full of charm, and caught Kenny's attention right away. Their connection was instant. In those early days, love felt simple. There were no careers to worry about, no pressures from the outside world. Kenny and Janice were just two young people caught up in the strong emotions of their youth. Attraction and passion were the heart of their relationship, and for a while that seemed like enough. In 1958, when Kenny was only 19 years old, he and Janice decided to get married. At that moment, they truly believed their love could overcome anything. But love alone isn't always enough, especially when you're still trying to figure out who you are. Their decision to marry came quickly, driven by emotion more than experience. It didn't help that Janice's family strongly disapproved of the relationship. They didn't believe Kenny could offer a stable life for their daughter. He was young, still exploring music, and not yet established in any career. These concerns created tension early in the marriage. Not long after they married, Janice became pregnant. Their daughter, Carolyn Rogers, was born soon after. Kenny loved both Janice and their baby girl deeply, but the reality of being a husband and father at such a young age hit him hard. He had no real preparation for the responsibilities he now faced. He later admitted that while his love was real, he wasn't ready for what came with it. Kenny was still growing up himself. The pressure from Janice's family, combined with his own lack of maturity, made it difficult for their marriage to survive. By 1960, just 2 years after they said, "I do," Kenny and Janice divorced. It was a painful decision for both of them, but one that felt necessary. Years later, Kenny would reflect on this time in his life with honesty and regret. He once said, "I wasn't mature enough to understand the value of family back then." He knew he had made mistakes. He had loved Janice, but he didn't know how to protect that love or hold on to it. The experience taught him lessons he would carry into the future, even though the pain of losing his first real relationship stayed with him. Looking back, Kenny often spoke about this chapter of his life with a sense of responsibility. He never tried to shift blame. Instead, he admitted that youth, inexperience, and external pressure created cracks in the foundation before the marriage had a real chance to grow. But even after this heartbreak, Kenny's search for love was far from over. He didn't give up, and his next marriage came sooner than anyone expected. Married too soon. After his first marriage ended, Kenny Rogers didn't spend much time alone. Just months after his divorce from Janice Gordon in 1960, he got married again, this time to a woman named Jean. Many people were surprised by how quickly he remarried. But for Kenny, it wasn't just about moving on. He was hoping for something different, something more stable. He still believed in love and thought a second chance at marriage might bring the peace and balance he had missed the first time. At this point in his life, Kenny was still very young and full of hope. Even though his first marriage had failed, he hadn't lost faith in relationships. He wanted to build a strong foundation with Jean, one that wasn't rushed or weighed down by pressure. He likely saw this new beginning as a way to fix what had gone wrong before. Maybe if he approached love with more focus, things would turn out better. Unfortunately, the marriage with Jean didn't bring the stability Kenny was hoping for. They didn't have children, which may have made it easier to separate later on, but that also meant they lacked a deeper bond that sometimes helps couples grow closer. More importantly, Kenny and Jean lived very different kinds of lives, and they wanted different things. Jean preferred a calm, private life. She didn't enjoy the spotlight or the fast-paced world of entertainment. Kenny, on the other hand, was becoming more serious about his music career. He was chasing big dreams and working hard to make a name for himself in the industry. This difference in lifestyle created tension between them. While Jean looked for peace and quiet, Kenny was spending more time performing, practicing and pushing his career forward. He was focused on success, and that often meant being away from home. Over time, these differences became too much to handle. They weren't fighting constantly, but they also weren't connecting deeply. Their paths in life just didn't match up. By 1963, only 3 years after their wedding, Kenny and Jean decided to go their separate ways. Their marriage ended quietly. There were no public scandals or big arguments. It was simply a case of two people realizing they weren't right for each other. Looking back, it's clear that Kenny was still learning what love and partnership really meant. He still had a lot of growing up to do, both personally and professionally. Although his second marriage didn't last long, it played an important role in Kenny's journey. It taught him more about what he needed from a relationship and what kind of partner would truly stand beside him through the ups and downs of life in the spotlight. It also showed that love alone wasn't enough. Understanding, shared values, and timing were just as important. But even after 2 failed marriages, Kenny still wasn't ready to give up on love, and his next relationship would last longer than either of the first 2. Fame over family. In 1964, Kenny Rogers entered what would become his longest marriage at the time. He married Margot Anderson, a talented dancer and actress. Their relationship felt stronger from the beginning. By now, Kenny had already been through 2 divorces. He was older, more experienced, and a little more aware of what it took to make a relationship last. Margot wasn't just his wife. She quickly became a true partner, someone who supported him in both his personal life and growing music career. Their bond grew steadily over the years. Unlike his previous marriages, this one had a deeper sense of companionship. Margot believed in Kenny, not just as a husband, but also as an artist. She stood by him through the highs and lows of his career and offered him stability during a time when his life was starting to speed up. As his fame slowly began to grow, Margot remained a quiet but strong presence behind the scenes. In time, their family grew. Kenny and Margot welcomed their son, Kenny Rogers Jr. This was a turning point for Kenny. Becoming a father again brought out a different side of him. He began to take on more emotional responsibility, not just for his child, but also for his role as a husband. For a while, it seemed like Kenny had found the right balance, with love, family, and a career all existing together. But that balance didn't last. As Kenny's popularity rose, so did the demands of his career. He was constantly touring, recording music, and attending events. The spotlight grew brighter, and with it his schedule became even more packed. Margot, who had supported him from the beginning, suddenly found herself spending more time alone. The long absences and lack of quality time started to take a toll on their relationship. Kenny later admitted that this was the period when he began putting his work before his family. It wasn't that he didn't love them, he did, but the excitement and pressure of success distracted him. He was chasing something big, and in the process, he started losing what mattered most. Margot continued to support him, but the emotional distance between them became too great to ignore. By 1976, after 12 years of marriage, Kenny and Margot decided to divorce. It was not an easy decision. Kenny was open about the fact that this divorce hurt deeply. He would later say that one of his biggest regrets was not being present enough for Margot and their son. He knew he had made choices that pushed them away, and he carried that guilt with him for many years. Even though their marriage ended, Margot played an important role in Kenny's journey. She gave him a sense of home when he needed it most, and helped raise a son who would later follow in his footsteps. But Kenny's search for lasting love wasn't over yet. His next relationship would last even longer and bring new lessons along the way. 16 years with no spark. In 1977, Kenny Rogers entered into what would become one of the most meaningful chapters of his personal life. That year, he married actress Marianne Gordon. Their relationship came after the end of his 12-year marriage with Margot Anderson. At this point, Kenny was becoming a household name, and his music career was in full swing. Still, he longed for a stable, loving home life. With Marianne, he seemed to find that balance, at least for a while. Marianne was not only his wife, but also someone who truly understood the world he lived in. She had her own career in the entertainment industry and knew what it was like to deal with fame, busy schedules, and public pressure. This common ground helped them build a strong connection. Their marriage lasted 16 years, longer than any of Kenny's previous relationships at that time. Together, they had a son named Christopher Cody Rogers. The birth of Christopher brought a new joy to Kenny's life. He loved being a father again and was proud of his growing family. Marianne was a dedicated mother and a steady presence beside him. Whether it was a red carpet event, a concert, or an award ceremony, she was often by Kenny's side. She supported his career fully and rarely sought the spotlight for herself. She focused more on her family than fame, and from the outside, their marriage seemed happy and successful. But behind the scenes, things slowly started to change. As Kenny entered his 50s, he began going through a difficult time emotionally. He later shared that he faced a period of inner confusion and change. He started to feel distant, not just from others, but even from himself. These struggles didn't always show on the surface, but they had a strong impact on his relationship with Marianne. This emotional drift didn't happen overnight. It was a slow and quiet process. There were no loud fights or public breakups. Instead, it was more about feeling disconnected over time. Marianne tried to support him, but the changes Kenny was going through created a gap between them that became hard to close. By 1993, Kenny and Marianne made the difficult decision to divorce. The split was handled with dignity and grace. Marianne never went to the media to speak badly about Kenny. Even after their marriage ended, she continued to show respect for the man she had once shared her life with. That level of maturity and care was something fans deeply appreciated. Though their love story didn't last forever, it left a lasting impact on both of them. Christopher Cody Rogers, their son, would later go on to explore his own creative path, following in the footsteps of both his parents. But Kenny's journey through love wasn't over just yet. His most lasting and life-changing relationship was still waiting around the corner: the final love. In the 1990s, when Kenny Rogers was already a well-known star in his 50s, something unexpected happened. He met the woman who would become the true love of his life. Her name was Wanda Miller. At the time, she was just 26 years old and working at a restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia. Their meeting was purely by chance, but it ended up changing both of their lives forever. Kenny had dinner at the restaurant where Wanda worked, and right away, he was drawn to her. There was something about her presence, calm, kind, and gentle. After the meal, Kenny didn't try to impress her with his fame. Instead, he did something simple but sincere. He called the restaurant after leaving and asked the staff to give Wanda his phone number. At first, she thought it was a joke. Why would a famous singer like Kenny Rogers be reaching out to her? But when she realized he was serious, she called him back. That phone call was the beginning of something real. Despite their strong connection, the relationship wasn't easy at the start. One of the biggest challenges was the age difference. Kenny was nearly 30 years older than Wanda, and her parents were deeply concerned. They didn't just worry about the age gap, they also knew about Kenny's past. He had already been through 4 marriages, and they wondered if he could truly commit to their daughter. Wanda's parents feared she would end up heartbroken. Instead of avoiding the situation, Kenny did the opposite. He spoke directly to Wanda's parents and listened to their concerns. During a very honest phone conversation, they asked him tough questions. "Are you serious about our daughter? Have you thought about her future? Can you give her the life she deserves?" Kenny didn't get defensive. He understood where they were coming from. He answered their questions with patience and respect. "I love Wanda," he said. "I would never hurt her. I want to build a real future with her." His words didn't change their minds right away, but over time, his actions spoke louder. Kenny made an effort to truly connect with Wanda's family. He visited their home, joined in family dinners, and shared parts of his own life, stories from his tours, his thoughts on love, and what he had learned from his past mistakes. Slowly, Wanda's parents began to see him not as a celebrity with a troubled past, but as a man who truly cared about their daughter. Kenny and Wanda dated for 5 years before they got married in 1997. By then, their bond had only grown stronger. They had faced judgment, doubts, and outside pressure, but their love stayed solid. When they finally said their vows, it was more than just a wedding. It was the beginning of a lasting partnership built on trust, effort, and deep emotional connection. Wanda became Kenny's most loyal companion. She chose to stay away from the spotlight, quietly supporting him through every phase of his life. While he continued to perform and tour, she stood by him with calm strength. She didn't seek fame or attention. She focused on their family and their shared life. Kenny once said that Wanda helped him slow down and enjoy the simple things. With her, he found a kind of peace he hadn't experienced in his earlier marriages. What made their relationship special was that it wasn't rushed. They took the time to really get to know each other. Kenny wasn't the same man he had been in his 20s or 30s. He had learned from his past, and he applied those lessons in his relationship with Wanda. He listened more, he made time for what mattered, and he appreciated the quiet, everyday moments. Through the years, Wanda remained by his side, not just during happy times, but also through the difficult ones. She supported him during health struggles and life changes. More than a wife, she became his anchor. Their marriage, which many once doubted, turned out to be the most meaningful and lasting love story of Kenny's life. His quiet goodbye. In the final chapter of Kenny Rogers' life, he faced a truth he could no longer ignore. His time was running out. After a long and successful career and years of joy with his wife Wanda and their twin sons, Kenny began to experience serious health issues. Though he didn't speak much about the details publicly, those close to him knew that his condition was slowly getting worse. He had spent years on the road, living a fast-paced life, and now his body was starting to slow down. But instead of focusing on the pain or the fear of what was to come, Kenny focused on what mattered most to him: his family. He made a clear choice to spend his remaining time close to Wanda and their sons, Justin and Jordan. He wanted to be present for the people he loved, not just in body but in spirit. As his health declined, his thoughts were not about fame or music awards, but about simple, everyday moments with the people who made his life whole. One of the most powerful memories from those last days was the final evening Kenny spent with Wanda. It wasn't a special occasion, no anniversary or holiday, but to her, it became one of the most meaningful moments of her life. That night, the house was quiet. The warm yellow light in the living room created a peaceful glow. Kenny sat in his favorite armchair, and Wanda sat beside him, resting her head on his shoulder. On the TV was an old movie they had watched many times before. They didn't need to speak much. Their presence was enough. Kenny held a small bowl of vanilla ice cream, one of his favorite treats, with a drizzle of chocolate sauce on top. He savored each spoonful slowly, occasionally chuckling at a scene in the movie. Wanda watched him closely, not knowing it would be the last time she would see him so relaxed and happy. That night, everything felt calm. There was no rush, no stress, just the comfort of being together. Wanda has said she would do anything to relive that night again, just to hold his hand a little longer or tell him, "I love you," one more time. On March 20th, 2020, Kenny Rogers passed away at the age of 81. He died peacefully, surrounded by the people who loved him the most. There was no drama or loud goodbye, just quiet, gentle love in the room. His passing left a deep emptiness in Wanda's heart, but also a sense of peace, knowing he had been loved and cared for until the very end. After his passing, Wanda shared her grief in a heartfelt way. On the first anniversary of his death, she posted personal photos on social media, pictures of Kenny smiling with their sons, touching moments at his memorial, and a quiet image of her and Kenny holding hands. These photos touched many fans around the world who had followed Kenny's music and life for decades. Wanda also shared a caption that said, "A person never truly leaves as long as they are remembered." It was a reminder that though Kenny was gone, his love still lived on. That year, and in the years that followed, Wanda continued to honor Kenny's memory. She spoke openly in interviews about how much she missed him. She shared that there were days when she could still feel his presence in the house, through the music they once listened to, or even in the silence of a room where they used to sit together. Other days the emptiness hit hard. She missed the sound of his laughter, his warm hugs, and the way he made her feel safe. Even their sons, Justin and Jordan, kept his memory alive in small but powerful ways. They spoke about him more as time passed, remembering his jokes, his stories, and his songs. Kenny's spirit continued to live in their everyday lives. Kenny Rogers may have been known around the world for his music, but to Wanda and their boys, he was simply dad and husband. His final days were not defined by illness or sadness, but by the quiet strength of a love that stayed true until the very end. Wanda's first years without Kenny. After Kenny Rogers passed away in March 2020, his wife, Wanda Miller, was left to face a world without the man who had been her partner for over 2 decades. In the early days after his death, Wanda chose to grieve quietly. She didn't seek the spotlight or public sympathy. Instead, she stayed close to her home, her sons, and the memories that filled every room they had once shared. On the first anniversary of Kenny's passing, Wanda decided to open a small window into her grief. She posted several personal photos on social media. These weren't polished or staged images. They were real moments captured during Kenny's final days and the months after. One photo showed Kenny playing with their sons, Justin and Jordan. Another was a quiet moment by his casket. There was also a private photo of Wanda holding Kenny's hand, a moment filled with love and sadness. Along with the photos, she wrote a short message. A person never truly leaves as long as they are remembered. Her words were simple, but they touched thousands of hearts. In her private time, Wanda kept a journal. It became her way of holding on to the last night she spent with Kenny. She wrote down every detail: the feel of his hand, the sound of his voice, the movie they watched together, and even the way he slowly enjoyed his favorite vanilla ice cream. Reading those pages, she could almost go back to that night, reliving the peace and love they shared in their final hours together. Grief didn't fade quickly for Wanda. Even as time passed, she found herself missing the smallest things the most: his gentle jokes, his deep laugh, the warmth of his hugs, and their simple routines like breakfast at McDonald's or weekend errands. These everyday moments had become treasures in her heart. Sometimes, in the quiet of the house, she thought she could still hear Kenny's voice or feel his presence nearby. During these difficult times, one person who remained a strong source of support was Lionel Richie, one of Kenny's closest friends. Lionel had known Kenny for many years, and after Kenny passed, he made sure Wanda never felt alone. He checked in regularly, listened when she needed to talk, and shared stories about the man they both loved. Lionel reminded her that Kenny was still with them in spirit, in the music, in the memories, and in the hearts of those who loved him, confirming the rumors. After years of quiet grieving, private reflection, and raising her sons as a single mother, Wanda Miller has finally entered a new chapter in her life, one that honors her past with Kenny Rogers while embracing the future. For some time, close friends and family noticed subtle changes. She smiled more, began stepping out socially again, and appeared to carry a new sense of peace. And now, 5 years after Kenny's passing, Wanda has confirmed the rumors. She has found love again. This new relationship wasn't rushed or expected. Wanda took her time. After all, Kenny had been the love of her life for over 2 decades, but she also remembered something very important: Kenny's own words during his final years. More than once, he had told her, "Don't mourn me forever." He knew her heart, and he didn't want her to stay frozen in grief. He urged her to live fully, not just for herself, but also for their twin sons, Justin and Jordan. He wanted her to be happy, and he believed she deserved to experience love again, even if he wouldn't be around to see it. So when love slowly returned to Wanda's life, it wasn't about replacing Kenny. It was about honoring everything they had built together. Wanda has made it clear that her bond with Kenny remains untouched. What they shared was unique, beautiful, and deeply rooted in respect and care. But now, with her sons grown and her heart slowly healing, she has opened herself up to companionship once again. Wanda has also been thoughtful about how this affects Justin and Jordan. The twins, now 20 years old, grew up with the strong presence of both their parents even after Kenny's passing. Over the years, Wanda helped them understand that grief doesn't go away, but it can change. She told them that moving on doesn't mean forgetting. It simply means continuing to live with love and purpose. She explained to them that Kenny will always be part of their lives, in their memories, in their mannerisms, in the music that fills their home, and in every lesson he left behind. From how to treat people with kindness to how to stay humble even when successful, Kenny's influence is still strong. Wanda's new relationship hasn't replaced their father. Instead, it has added something new and positive to their family's story. Wanda's openness with her sons helped them accept this change with maturity and grace. They've come to understand that people can love more than once in a lifetime. And most importantly, they know that Kenny would want their mother to be cared for and happy, not just surviving, but truly living. Friends close to the family have shared that Kenny's spirit still surrounds them, whether it's in a favorite old song playing on the radio or a familiar saying one of the boys repeats. His presence is felt every day. And now, with this new chapter beginning, Wanda continues to carry Kenny in her heart, while also making room for what lies ahead. And as Wanda's life continues to evolve, one unexpected invitation may bring her and her sons back into the spotlight, this time in honor of Kenny's legacy. If you enjoyed this story and want more heartfelt journeys like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.